Hello, this is Dr. Lennon. I just wanted to walk you through a couple examples that are similar to the quiz questions on Excel Miner. So the first one we're going to look at is the example in the textbook on page 263. So this is the web file ktc small, and we're going to be doing a k-means clustering example using Excel Miner. So I'm in my Chapter 6 web files folder, and I'm just going to navigate to ktc small, open it up. And I get all this data. So we want to use the Excel Miner k-means clustering. We're going to have to fill in a bunch of things, but in the quiz you are prompted for them. So this will be very similar to the quiz question on the FBS football bowl subdivision example, the first quiz question where you have to do a k-means clustering. So let's see how to do this. Well, the first thing we need to do is we just select any cell, and then we want to click the Excel Miner platform. And then for clustering, under data analysis, there's lots of things you can do, but we're doing a k-means clustering. So go ahead and click that. And there will be a bunch of things we can fill in. It auto-populates basically what you think it should be. So the worksheet that we're in is data, the workbook is the file we opened, and then the data range is given right here. So we just want to make sure that we're actually including all of the data. But the population A1 through G31 should be quite correct. So the next thing we want to do is just go ahead and actually pick the variables in the input data. So, excuse me. So in this problem, they say KTC is interested in developing customer segments based on age, income, and number of children. So these are the variables that we want to use. They're interested in age, income, and children. So you can do them one at a time. So just click age, put it in there as a variable, income, and the number of children. So again, you could cluster based on any of these variables, but usually you'll have some in mind that you think are important being related to the data. So if all of this looks okay, what we now want to do is go ahead and just click next. And now we want to change a few things. So for this example, we actually want to normalize the input data. So for example, for number 1 on the quiz, you're going to do the first time normalizing the input data, and then the second time you're going to run it through without normalizing the input data. And you're going to try and see what kind of difference that makes. So again, it might help you to read section 6.3 on unsupervised learning to get some idea of how that's impacting it. And then the number of clusters, I believe in the example on the quiz it's 10, but for us we're going to just do 3 in the clusters box. And then for the number of iterations, the number of times we want to go through it, we're going to do it 50 times. And then random starts, we want to change that to 10. So you can't just enter it, you have to click up arrow till you get to 10. And again, hit next. And now it'll give us some options on what we want to see. We want to see both of these. We want to see the data summary and the distances from each cluster. So we just click finish here. And down here, it'll produce 2 more sheets next to the data sheet, the KMC output sheet and also the KMC cluster sheet. So this gives more of the raw data, and this gives the output. And you also have links that you can just click that will take you to anywhere in the information you want to see, or you can just scroll down. So the random starts, again, we had that go through 10 times. And let's look at what we have here. So what are some of the questions they ask you? On the first one on the quiz, they ask what is the smallest cluster, what is the least dense cluster, and what makes the least dense cluster so diverse. So let's look at similar things here. So if we want to look at the actual clusters of the data, we see that we have 3 clusters that we chose. We have one where we have the youngest age cluster is earning the smallest income and has the most children. The oldest cluster has the most income and averages the middle children, and then the middle-aged cluster has probably the most middle class income and also the fewest children. So we have distances between clusters here, and if you go down to the data summary, we actually have the average distance between the observations in the cluster. So when you're looking for the least dense cluster, the least dense means there's going to be more distance between each observation. So for us, cluster 1 is the least dense, and cluster 3 is the most dense. So that means these clusters are actually closest to each other. And if you remember, if you kind of read earlier on how they're doing cluster analysis, what they're using here is they're using the Euclidean distance, which is just the square root of the differences from the mean value in each variable squared, added together, and then you apply the square root. So that Euclidean distance is how they're calculating this average distance. And you can find the meaning of Euclidean distance at the bottom of page 256. So that's how they're calculating those. And then the data summary. So these are the normalized coordinates. So these are in terms of just deviations. These are in terms of the actual pure distance of the metrics added together. And again, we have similar values here. So we see a lot smaller, more uniform numbers in the normalized coordinates than we do in the original coordinates. And so that's how you determine the density. And what is the smallest cluster? The smallest cluster in terms of observations, the smallest cluster is number 2. We just got 5 observations. So basically what this clustering is doing is we have a whole bunch of data points in here, up to 30. So the first row is not utilized because it's got the things down here. And then what it's doing is it's just sampling out of these randomly to get our number of observations. It turns out to be all 30 here. And it's clustering them into the most natural groups. So let's see. Yeah, so that's about it. And then you have to basically go through, and there are some other questions that are pertinent to the football bowl subdivision question in number 1 that don't really apply here. But that's basically what we're looking at. So mostly we're looking at the cluster centers and the data summary when we're trying to utilize this data mining example. And again, this is the example on page 263 and 264. So definitely when you're going through number 1 on the quiz, you're going to want to page through section 6.3 to kind of get an idea about what's going on. So I hope this helped with the Excel Miner function, and good luck on the quiz.